So we know Damon's got something up his sleeve, an essential nuclear bomb. And welcome back to the Sundowners Club, where we are covering House of the Dragon season finale, episode 10, The Black Queen. We appreciate you tuning in. If you like what you hear and like what you see today, please hit the like button, leave a comment, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel so that we can grow our content. Further ado, my sidekick, Sterling. What's up, buddy?
Not much. How are you?
Doing good. So as we get right into it, season finale's done. We'll do a quick little debrief on episode 9 as well, leading into episode 10. But as the season is over, in a few words, what do you think of season 1 House of the Dragon? What was your initial reaction overall?
I thought it was really good. I mean, I was impressed. It's definitely, I think season 2 is setting up more for an action-packed. I think it's going to be more about the war, This kind of shows you how they got there. So there was a lot of setup and a lot of build-up, but I thought it was really good. I thought the quality of it and everything is among the best I've seen on TV. So I think, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised at how excited I was, looking forward every week to every episode, leading up to episode 9. When we got to episode 9, I guess there's going to always be at least one episode a season that you're not going to like, or it's just not going to feel as good as the others. And episode 9 was that one for me. Not so much because I didn't like what they were covering in the episode, but they had to cover it, right? So you had Viserys dying, and they convened the Green Council, and you see Alicent pushing back on Otto. There's the chase in the city trying to find Aegon, who doesn't want to be king. And so for me, the writing in it seemed a little bit off. And, I didn't enjoy the episode as much, although at the end, I thought there was a definite lead in to the finale with Aegon having his crowning moment at the Septum. Rhaenys has been, she's been held captive. You kept feeling all season like she was going to break out. There was going to be some big moments, and she certainly had it. So she gets her dragon Meleys, and I don't know why she didn't go out from another exit to the dragon pit, or from the dragon pit, but she goes out from under the floor and kills hundreds, if not thousands, of people. So a little bit of a strange plot point there that they decided to show off Rhaenys and her dragon ability, and why she didn't kill them, burn them right then and there. But they did sort of explain, or they led up to that at this point she was trying to avoid war, and she didn't want to take a side, especially without Lord Corlys around. And so it kind of made sense, although as a fan you wanted to see her take them out, but that wasn't going to happen. So they lead into the finale well, although I thought that episode 9 was the weakest of the 10 episodes for this season. And that's really saying a lot from a show that has 10 episodes, and 9 of them, to me, were just stellar. And so I was excited heading into the finale. And, we get into the finale and we know what's happened. Aegon's been crowned, but Rhaenyra doesn't know that. And so we start on Dragonstone, and Rhaenyra has not gone into labor yet, but she's standing there, and I thought it was a really important scene. It was foreshadowing a little bit that Luke was talking to her about the fact that he did not want to be the heir to Driftmark. He didn't feel like he was up to it. He's a kid. And Rhaenyra has this motherly moment where she says, "Look, I was your age when I was named the heir to the throne, and you'll do fine." And he says, "Look, I'm not like you." And she says, "Perfect." She kisses him on the head. It's a tender moment. And when you have those moments in the Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, a tender moment is not good for your future if you're that character.
Right.
So, I thought that was a cool scene. And of course, as soon as we have it, Rhaenys shows up on Dragonback, and she's there to tell them that the king is dead. So what were your thoughts of the first initial scenes as we're building towards something in that season finale where Rhaenys comes in and Daemon is obviously furious at what has happened? What was your take on that?
Well, if you go back to episode 9, I think it was kind of disappointing, but a lot of that has to do with expectations. So Game of Thrones episode 9 was always kind of like the ultimate episode where all the action happened. That wasn't the case here. I think
Right.
the ultimate episode was probably episode 10 for sure. And really, you're just getting a matter of two perspectives. Episode 9 is, the Hightower perspective. In episode 10, you're seeing what Rhaenyra and Daemon are how they're dealing with what's going on. So you're just getting basically it's just broke up. Each episode is a different perspective, and so that's why it was kind of slow. I mean, it would almost been better if it could have just been maybe one long episode, but they chose to do it that way, and but I mean overall I thought it was really good. With episode 10, you have you have that the way Damon and Rhaenyra are dealing with what has happened is kind of the most interesting part at the beginning, because they have a completely different perspective on how they're going to approach things, and that kind of leads into the rest of the episode. That was the majority of it.
I thought they did that very well. Damon, pure emotion, but he also is somewhat of a character via the transference from the fans, because the fans, he said to Rhaenys, why didn't you burn them? Why didn't you, what were you thinking? They're going to come after all of us. Like,
it would be a short
right.
series.
So Damon is always the character that like almost speaks on behalf of the fans to some degree. Like, kill this person. Let's just get this over with. Let's kill Otto. Let's kill these people. And so he's furious, and he's questioning Rhaenys, because at this point he knows that she didn't do it because they haven't taken a side yet, or she has to determine where this stuff is going to play out, right? And so Damon knows that, and so he immediately wants to convene the War Council. But before that, Rhaenyra, she has two things going on. She's lost her father, and the weight of the crown is heavy in that moment. Then also, she knows that they've taken it from her. So Aegon's been crowned in the septum in front of thousands of people in King's Landing. So all of a sudden, she goes into labor. So she's bleeding, and it's early. So the foreshadowing that they've had on that is that this is going to not be like the other births. So she starts to go into labor, which gives Daemon an opportunity to prepare the War Council. And I thought that was interesting. Rhaenyra now is putting more responsibility on the sons, and she sends Jace to keep Daemon in check. And the first thing Daemon does is says, "Let me teach you about loyalty." And he takes him outside, and he has some of the Knights Guard, and tells them, "Look, you will swear an oath to Rhaenyra, and if you do, you will. If you don't, you'll die right here, but you'll die an honorable death. But if you go back on your word, I'm going to make you suffer." So
Yeah.
and he's teaching Jace. There's a lot of things going on there. It's like, look, this is how you have to handle these types of things, and it's purely Damon's perspective on that. And you could tell that Jace is not. He's not on board with that yet. That's not how he's been raised, and so he's looking at Daemon a little puzzled, and so I thought that was an interesting scene. And so, and then we cut back to Rhaenyra, and man, that was a brutal birth scene. I mean, the
Had a
maidens,
couple of those, right?
yeah, 3 this season, and this one was the worst. So
Yeah,
she's
it
walking
was.
around pacing, and they're trying to help her, and then of course, for those that have read the books, there is a line where Rhaenyra says, "Get out of me," and that was in the show. And so we see her, we see toughness, we see sorrow, because she knows that the baby's going to die and she may die with it. So I thought the actress, best scene of the year for her, of the season, and playing, in that moment, all the emotions you see on her face of the uncertainty of what's happening, the pain, the physical pain, the emotional pain, and then she loses the baby. And so we cut to her wrapping the baby. She won't give the baby up. She first wraps it in her chest, and they don't go into as much detail graphically as the books do, which I think was a good choice. but she wraps the baby, and then we have the funeral pyre of the baby, and everybody's outside, and then all of a sudden you see Sir Eric Cargill, who has left King's Landing, one of the twin knights, and he has delivered the crown of Viserys, and Daemon places it on her head. So now she is queen of the Andals, and it is setting the stage for what comes next. And one of the things that I think was really cool was you see, even though she hasn't declared yet, Rhaenys is standing in the back. She doesn't bow, so it's still up, uncertain.
Leaving it open, yeah.
Yeah, it's leaving it open. I thought that was a great scene. What did you think about when they cut back to the War Council? How cool was the Chamber of the Painted Table where it lights up from the bottom?
Yeah, I don't.
That was pretty cool.
That was cool. I guess it was just. I was thinking, how could they do that back then? But then it's just fire underneath, I'm sure. But yeah, it was really detailed for a great prop.
Well, at the beginning, you see. I think it was Luke was rubbing his hands along the table, but it was not lit up. So you see the names of the various houses around the Seven Kingdoms,
right?
And I thought that was really cool that they showed that.
Get one in here.
Yeah, we have one to light it up. That would be a good visual. So, but I thought that was cool. The painted table lit up with the candles underneath, and we start to see the beginning of what is a war council, and they're trying to determine, what houses are loyal, what houses are against us, what houses are up for grabs, and you start to see Rhaenyra, take a leadership position of like, okay, walk me through where are we, and we've seen some of those scenes before in Game of Thrones, and we saw a brief one in House of the Dragon earlier in the season, but I thought it was really cool to finally see Rhaenyra in that leadership position, and she's got everyone around her to walk her through where they are and what they need in order to be successful. And then Otto Hightower shows up at Dragonstone. So, what was your take on? I mean, first of all, was it smart for Otto to just show up? I mean, that's the second time he's done that.
Yeah, it was crazy when he asked where the princess is, and she comes flying in on her dragon and lands right behind him. So they're cornered. I mean, there's no way out. So I thought maybe they'd wipe him out right there, but I probably would have. I probably would have just killed him.
Well, of course, Daemon wants to do it and always has to be restrained because he's not king and now he's not queen. So, and I felt like Rhaenyra was leaning towards that something was going to go down, but I thought that that the scene for Otto was he had her on her heels because he basically said Aegon has the legitimacy of the throne. He sits on the Iron Throne. He wears Aegon the Conqueror's crown. He has the Aegon the Conqueror's sword. And then he hits her with, in the houses of Stark and Baratheon and Tully have sweared fealty. They're going to support Aegon. And she says, no, I don't think so.
He said he sent, I guess, that they're considering it, but I don't think they've declared loyalty yet.
Yeah, he kind of made her feel like that of course they were going to do that. That it was a given that was going to happen. And she says no, but she's a little bit on her heels at that point. You think something's going to happen. And then there's a really good scene of Otto takes out something from Alicent, and it's a page from the book from earlier in the season when they were children. Yep. And showing
their when her mom died, right? Wasn't that when?
I believe so. Yeah,
and they were praying together, and he gives her that. She just kind of melts.
And so you see Rhaenyra tear up, and Otto knows what he's doing, or Alicent knows what she's doing, and Rhaenyra stops in her tracks and says, I don't know if she says, give me until the fortnight, but she says, give me time. I'll give you my answer. I'll give my answer to King's Landing. And so obviously Daemon is not happy with that. And, they go back into the hall, and, I thought this was a great scene. Daemon walk up to the fireplace, and she starts speaking about the prophecy.
She has no clue about. He has no idea about it.
Right. Daemon knows nothing because he's not firstborn. He's not an heir to the throne. So, Daemon, I don't know why I saw some reactions on social media and people like, well, Daemon choked her. Like, have you not been watching Damon all season? He murdered his first wife. So I think the fact that he would choke Rhaenyra is not out of character for Damon. Damon is emotional. He's vindictive. He's angry. He's prone to violence.
Some of the best characters aren't always good guys.
Right.
He's not a good guy. He might be fighting for the side you're rooting for, but he's definitely not a good guy.
Of course. And so choking her, he thinks, oh, you're going to go down the same road as my brother, talking about all these visions and prophecies. And then the great line that we actually saw in the trailer that got me excited for House of the Dragon, when she's talking about the prophecies and the dreams, and he says, dreams didn't make us kings, dragons did. To see how Viserys talked to Rhaenyra earlier in the season about, what their obligations were and responsibilities as human beings, and to kind of separate the dragons, because that was a false sense of power and sense of God, the God complex that the Targaryens have. Daemon doesn't see it that way. Daemon sees it as this is, if there is any sort of prophecy or there is any sort of sense of destiny, manifest destiny, it's because we're the Targaryen, we're the blood of the dragon. And so that line right there about dreams didn't make us kings, dragons did, that is Daemon Targaryen. That is who he is.
Right.
And at the end of the day, we've seen throughout the season, he mentions it in this episode, we have more dragons than them. We see Daemon going into the interior of the mountainside when there's the clutch of the dragon eggs. He has been building for this moment because he knows they need numbers. They need numbers and dragons.
What dragon was that? I didn't know.
So that was Vermithor was the big dragon, and that's another thing some people maybe were a little confused about. And the show was a little vague on that, but that is definitely Vermithor, and I believe we saw him earlier in the season when Aemond had gone into to the pit. But I may be wrong on that. But that was definitely Vermithor that he was singing to, and so.
And where is he? Is he like the second biggest one?
So he's second biggest to Vhagar.
That's right.
And Vermithor was ridden by Jaehaerys and has not had a dragon rider since. So I think Vermithor's around 100 years old, and so we know Daemon's got something up his sleeve. I mean, he's literally inside a mountainside with an essential nuclear bomb, and he knows that they need Vermithor. Like the other side has Vhagar. So Daemon's been building towards this, and I thought that was a really cool scene because a lot of people didn't really know what was going on there, but I think that will be further explained in season 2 for sure.
I didn't know, and that's going to be a gap between book readers and more casual fans, and that's one of the perspectives that we have separate. You've read the books and you like the show. I've never read the books. I love the show, but I think more people are probably coming from it from my perspective. So they see the dragons, but they don't know all the dragons yet. I know a few of them. I've picked up on a couple, but I had no idea what that.
And there's more coming, so it can get confusing. And even someone who's read the books but haven't read the books recently, you forget things, and then you see something and you go, okay, that was definitely in the book, or they changed that. But I don't think you have to have read any parts of the books to really enjoy this. Just like I don't think you have to have seen Game of Thrones to enjoy House of the Dragon. And that was what was great about this season. But back to the episode. So Corlys Velaryon arrives on Dragonstone, and the sea snake is alive. The fever's broken, and he obviously has learned a lesson. He's been off in battle. He wants to go home. He does not want to declare a side. He is deferring to Rhaenys and her wisdom, and telling her, look, we're going to go home, and let's let these people fight this out. And she says, no. Our grandchildren will die if Aegon remains king. He will kill our grandchildren. And so,
ironically enough, aren't really his grandchildren.
But he has the granddaughters.
Yeah.
He has the granddaughters. So
and they're supposed to marry, right?
They're supposed to marry Luke and Jace.
Right.
Yeah, and they're Daemon's children with Laena Velaryon. So in his mind, he has all these grandchildren. Right. But yeah, to your point, from a blood perspective, it's
definitely not his.
It's Daemon's girls that are his grandchildren. So, but Corlys, he joins the War Council. He tells them that did he learn from the last battle at the Stepstones, and he now controls the Narrow Sea, and they can put off King's Landing, put them into a choke point, and use that as an advantage to cut them off. Rhaenyra is still hesitant. Do you think that would seem that they handled that well in terms of the writing of Rhaenyra as still at this point doesn't want to draw first blood, first blow? She's reacting.
George R.R. Martin kind of always writes his characters where good and evil is a matter of perspective. There's really not good guys and bad guys. But, I mean, she's definitely coming off as, I think, the good guy. I think more people will root for her, and they've made it easy to root for her because of, she's really done nothing, in these last few episodes. It's pretty much she they took her crown, and then she even wanted to kind of make peace because she thought it'd be better for the realm. So I mean, they basically kind of made her the good guy, which is fine. I think people need someone to root for, and I think the vast majority of the audience will probably end up rooting for her.
She promised her father she would unite the realm.
Right.
She knows that the looming threat. She doesn't know how far off it is. She thinks it's.
Yeah, that's the only thing. I mean, it just kind of makes it more like definitely the High Towers are bad, and then they're called the Greens, and then the Blacks, which are Rhaenyra and Daemon. They're kind of the good guys in this. I
Maybe
think for most people. Oh yeah, but then you have Daemon doing what he's doing. But
we have to wait. Remember, Jaime Lannister was the bad guy in season 1 of Game of Thrones.
That's true, and that's the great part of these shows. Is it's not black and white, But she's definitely the easiest one to root for right now, for most people, I think.
So her sons, Jason, Luke, tell her that they would be faster riding on dragons as opposed to sending ravens to Storm's End, which is House Baratheon, and I believe that Jace is going to Winterfell to meet with Cregan Stark, and so they volunteer. She makes them swear to go as messengers and not warriors. I think she's doing that from a sense of wisdom, but also she's trying to protect them. If they go as messengers, they have a much better chance of coming back safely, and so she's trying to protect her boys. But she knows that it's high stakes, and so we see, Luke arrives at Storm's End. Again, we have a night scene, but this time, as Luke lands on Arrax, Arrax, for those that don't know the dragon, that's Luke's dragon, and he sees another dragon off in the distance, and it's Vhagar. Yeah. So I thought the actor that plays Luke was really good at portraying fear. Immediately he knows, this is not good. Yeah. But yet he has the courage to overcome that fear to go into the hall and meet with Boris Baratheon. And of course, I guess Boris Baratheon can't read, so God has to bring him the
Maester.
Yeah, the Maester has to bring him the letter and read it to him. I'm assuming Boris can't read.
Yeah.
But and he's angry because Luke has not brought him anything. So you want us to
no offer of marriage or anything like that. He's basically just, my mom's the queen, and you gave your word. So
right. I think his father maybe gave his word.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And you need to honor it. Aemon, I guess, offered a marriage proposal.
Yeah, Aemon is there,
like
and he's grinning. So yeah. Aemon knows that this outcome is already predetermined.
The scene where he flies in and you see Vhagar just towering over the castle, and you see the massive size difference in their dragons. That was one of the best scenes in the entire series. When he flies up there and which Arrax, I mean, still a dragon, but I mean, comparatively speaking, it's
a baby.
Yeah, it's like Vhagar's probably what 5-6 times bigger than him.
I'm trying to remember. It's documented. It may be 8 to 10 times bigger.
It's huge difference when you see him flying. But yeah, that, and also his mother really gave him some bad advice there, though. she sends them there like he would be friendly and honored to have him, and he wasn't. He wasn't friendly at all. So she sends her son into this, and he's completely blindsided in how he's treated. And then, of course, you have Aemon there with his dragon, and
First, he wants his eye, so he wants retribution for
Right.
his eye. And you see Eamon, the actor that plays Eamon, takes off the patch. I thought that was a really cool
that guy's
scene.
great, by the way.
Yeah, the scene. I don't know if it was meant to be scary or terrifying. I just thought it was cool.
Yeah, yeah.
It made me. It made
plays
me
that
like
role
Eamon. It's
really
like, oh, he's
well.
got like a bluish colored White Walker eye. But
Yeah, I guess it's just like a jewel shoved in his eye, right, or something.
maybe
But he does a really good job of just playing that creepy, intense, violent individual, and yeah, that was one of the best scenes. And then the scene that came after that.
Yeah, so Boris Baratheon says, "Not in my hall." If you're going to fight, fight outside of here. He knows that there are repercussions for an heir to Driftmark and heir to the throne. Basically, Rhaenyra's son being assaulted, hurt, killed, whatever, maimed, and it's all. So they leave there, and Luke knows he's in trouble. So I thought that scene was very well done, where he's panicking, but he's also trying to get Arax to calm, to focus, because the dragon is nervous. And so he takes off on the dragon in the rain, and he's faster than Vagar. And
I don't know if he's faster, like he can maneuver better, but you can't really. I guess because of the wingspan difference, like you know what I mean. It seems like he was catching.
Yeah, well. So in the scene, the way I interpreted it was that he was going. He had gotten away. He was going to get away, and Aemond. My perception of that scene was that Aemond was really toying with him, but didn't want to kill him.
Right.
Was not going to do that, and so this chase ensues, and Luke thinks he's getting away, and Aemon thinks that he's getting away, and all of a sudden, the dragons flip the script on their riders, and so for the first time, we saw a little bit of this in Game of Thrones with Daenerys when Drogon got upset with her and did not really respond to her over a few episodes, and but we didn't see the true nature of the dragons until this moment where Arax is threatened, and we know that the easiest thing to do is you've gotten away, go back to Dragonstone.
Just hid in the cave.
But Arax does what a dragon instinctually does, which is completely disregards the fact that they have a rider on their back and comes at Vagar's eyes, because that's the only way to take out Vagar. You take out the eyes. So he blows fire and he attacks, which throws Aemond off. Well, now Aemon has lost control of Vagar.
Right.
So now Vagar's instincts are to disregard his rider or her rider. And we see Luke rise up into the clouds in the clearing. Fortunately, due to lack of science, Luke doesn't freeze at the high altitude. Neither does Aemond. And
they're Targaryens, right? I don't know.
Then you see the true size of Vagar, and just rips the dragon in half, and Luke is dead. And so the show ends with Daemon walking into the hall and, going over to Rhaenyra, and they're facing away from us, which I thought was really well done as far as the shot, and tells her that Luke is gone. And she turns around, and it's not sadness. When she finally turns around and stares at the camera, it's not sadness that you see from Rhaenyra. It is, we're going to war.
Yeah, I think, you see her head tilt down when she gets the news, so I think there's definitely sadness there. But then when you see her turn around, she's angry.
Right.
So
it's over. It's there's no getting around the fact that it's all out war, and that leads us into season 2. Season 1 wraps. It's. I was trying to think on short notice. It's better than the last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones, easily in my book.
That doesn't say much, though.
It doesn't. Is it better than season 5 or 6 of Game of Thrones? It's up there. It
depends what you're looking for too. I mean, there's going to be some people that just love dragons, and for that they're going to like this show. I think if If you remember Game of Thrones, the first season, a lot of the cool scenes happened off the camera.
Right, right.
So like I remember, when they captured Jamie Lannister and they're like, he cut down 10 men. It's like, well, I wanted to see that. I wanted to see that battle, and they didn't have the budget yet. And I actually read something about that. Those scenes were edited out of the first season because they didn't have the budget to show it all. And then as the show got more famous and more people started watching it, the budget grew, and then they start showing those big scenes.
And we saw wider shots of castles and
Right.
locations,
and then way more of the war scenes and all that.
This show this season was amazingly. The cinematography was, I talked about Fabian Wagner in an earlier episode. It was amazing, and if you get a chance to watch it on a bigger screen, I mean, you can enjoy this show in any format, but it's cinematic. There's nothing like it on TV and any streaming platform. There's just so much to like about it. I think that, the team behind House of the Dragon brought this world back and brought it back in a big way, where I think you can get excited about season 2 and what's coming.
And even other shows related to it. Like I'm more excited about the Jon Snow show. They keep talking about the prophecy, right?
They could potentially do Aegon's Conquest, although I think you could do that within another show and condense it and show scenes, maybe. But the Duncan Egg, there's the Blackfire Rebellion. There's all kinds of ways they can go that people would be intrigued. And I was excited. I was skeptical when they first announced they were doing it after the first pilot for The Long Night was canceled. But I couldn't be more excited about seeing what comes next. I have faith in the team, just like we've talked about other creators and showrunners of other series. You have faith in a group or team of people, and when you do that, you tune in. And that's why I think with each episode, the audience and the ratings were increasing because the fan base is growing. And I think that the sky's the limit. I think George R. R. Martin said that it was either a 3 or 4 season show.
It needed to be 4 seasons to do it.
Yeah, and we talked in another episode about it could not go over 5 for this particular story. So knowing where it ends, yeah, it's a 3 or 4 season arc, and I think that's perfect. I think it's perfect for the story being condensed and being very tight and not having a lot of filler. And I think it was great. So we'll be here to cover everything that's an offshoot of Game of Thrones. Final thoughts? You just looking forward to season 2?
I'm really looking forward to season 2. Only thing I worry about is HBO's dropped the ball so much on their popular shows right at the end on the last season. So I hope it's not like a Game of Thrones or a Rome. You remember that show? Like the situation where you have these first 2 or 3 great seasons, and then at the very end they just kind of.
I believe they've started production. It seems like I read that they've started pre-production or production, and they'll be filming up until summer of 2023. So
just don't screw it up in the end. And that will
if they finish by early summer, then they'll be editing episodes all the way up till the fall again, September, October. So we could potentially have season 2 debut before the end of the year in 2023. But if not, I think that the typical Game of Thrones shows usually aired in April. So it's possible we could get through all of 2023 without House of the Dragon. But we'll see. We'll be here to keep track of what's going on with it and update you guys. And again, if you like what you heard today, like what you saw, leave a comment, hit the like button, and most importantly, hit subscribe. We appreciate you, and TCB.